Hello and welcome to my page. I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí. I'm the mind-body violinist and expert in Alexander technique, which is a mind-body discipline. And I specialize in helping people apply this kind of inner awareness and external awareness, of course, being present in the moment to what's going on inside of yourself while you're performing or practicing, and also what's going on around you. So Alexander technique helps you to find balance and joy in everything you're doing. So in this particular video, I want to talk about 3 ways in which you, yes you, because you're human, that's all, this is not a criticism, we all end up sabotaging our performances in some way or another. And I've been performing my entire life. I've been a violinist forever, and I do these things too. So I know quite a lot about how we do this. As I was preparing for today's video, I made a huge long list of ways that we interfere with our best performance, and I did put them into 3 categories. So I'm going to be talking about how we interfere using our minds, how we interfere with the body, and how we interfere with spirit or soul or purpose. Okay, so those are the 3 big categories, but I'm going to get really specific about many ways that we interfere with flow and real inspiration in our music making. So I hope you're going to enjoy today's broadcast. If you do find it interesting, I really would love it if you would share this video and tag your friends and comment on it whenever something comes up. And if you're watching now live or the replay, please just say hi so I know you were here. And if you have any questions at any time, now or 3 months or 3 years from now, just tag me, and I'm always very happy to help and answer your questions. So before we dive into the material, I just want to say hello to everybody who's coming on now. I'm so happy always to see familiar faces and, not faces unfortunately. I wish I could see you all, but familiar names and also new people coming in. So hello Barb and Kay and Robin and Venja and Nana and Dan. So lovely that you're here. Let me start with a really simple question for all of you. I just was curious before I came on live as to what instruments everybody plays. So if you just have a moment, if it's easy for you to just type in what instrument you play, I'd really love to see that. Also, if you're watching the replay, just type in your instrument and we'll get a little poll going on here. Okay. 3 ways that you sabotage your performance. And again, this is not personal because it's just a human thing. We all do these things, at least some of them, some of the time, okay? And ultimately, this is about interfering with your natural design and natural flow of energy while you're making music. Music is a flow of energy. It's a transmission of an idea from your mind and your heart out through your body, out through your musical instrument. And when I talk about sabotaging that, what I mean is that we do things to ourselves that block that natural flow. And again, I'm putting them in 3 categories: mind, body, and spirit. And by spirit, I'm including emotions, your personality, your soul, your heart, okay? So you can use whatever word you like. I like the word spirit, but I think you know what I mean. You want to play with spirit, right? Inspiration comes from spirit, having spirit and connection with spirit. Okay, so sabotage number 1, the way we interfere with the mind. And these are not in any particular order. I could have put spirit first, but I decided to start with the mind. I also had a request from a member of my mind-body practice tribe. And by the way, if you're not a member, join. There's a link at the top of this post. We have a lot of fun. But there's a member of the practice tribe who recently gave me a suggestion for something I could talk about in these live videos. And he suggested that I talk about the desire to please an audience and to judge oneself and the idea that the audience is judging us, okay? So this is a huge thing for performers and for people, actually. We tend to care maybe a little too much about what other people think. And when we go into that kind of thinking mode that's more outer directed, we tend to be critical not only of ourselves, but also of our audience. And this is something most people don't think about. Very often we have performance anxiety because we're worried about how the audience is going to receive what we are giving them. We think maybe they're going to criticize us if we mess up, or we don't play, you know, you miss a note, or something goes wrong and you're worried about what the audience is going to think. Give me a why. Just put a why in there if you can relate to that and you've ever had that experience where you care about who's out in the audience and you're worried about what they might think, especially if you mess up. And give me a thumbs up if this sounds familiar. Okay, I want to get your input here so that this is not just one-sided. And thank you for telling me what your instruments are. I see the comments are coming in. Yeah. So yes, we tend to judge our audience also because I'm assuming that my audience is going to be judging me, and I don't think that's very loving towards my audience. It's not loving towards me either. Okay, so when I make music, when we make music, really we have something beautiful or special or important that we want to communicate to the audience, and we want to be able to, you know, have a connection there with the audience. Now, when we think that the audience is going to be judging us for how we're doing it, we're actually making an assumption that the audience is not going to be open to receiving everything that we have to offer. So that's something really important to explore. Are you judging yourself, and are you judging your audience? Judgment leads to excess tension in the body, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and it absolutely interferes with getting across our ideas fully from the heart. Okay, so you want to watch out for judgment, and that also falls under the bigger category of negative thinking. Negative thinking is interfering with having that free, spontaneous flow of ideas. It's a way that we sabotage our performance. I could list ways that we indulge in negative thinking for hours, but I'm going to leave that for another video. But your homework, if you choose to get curious about this, is to brainstorm all the ways that you interfere with negative thinking. Okay, judgment is only one of the ways we do it. Ultimately, this boils down to, well, when we interfere mentally, boils down to a lack of awareness and a lack of mental discipline. A couple other ways we do this mentally is we anticipate the future. We get out of the present moment and we worry about, like, oh, there are a lot of black notes coming up. This is really scary. What if I screw it up this time? I screw it up every time. Or we say, I screw it up so much. This time I'm going to get it right. When you're focusing on the future instead of the present with your thinking, that is going to sabotage your performance. You may actually hit the high note, but you're not going to do it with the greatness, the sound quality that you could have if you were doing it from being aware of the present moment and really being present to the note that you're playing now. Great musicians know you've got to be present to the note you're playing right now and not paying attention to what's coming up. Also, not worrying about what's over. The notes that you just played are gone. Forget about it. It's history. All right? Be present to the note you're playing right now. Okay, so not being mindful, not being present, jumping ahead, falling back, all of those things are a lack of mental discipline. Okay, so that's category number one, how we sabotage our performance with the mind. And I could talk about that for days and days and days. This is what I deal with in my Alexander Technique online classes. If you want to learn more, just ask. But does this ring true to you? I saw some emojis flying by a moment ago. I'd love to get your feedback on what you think about these things before I go on to the next category. Can you all relate to or can you remember a way in which you have sabotaged a performance with your thinking? Are you aware that the mind is the #1 self-sabotager? Yourself, that's your greatest enemy, really. And to learn how to navigate that use of yourself, that's what Alexander technique is really, really, really good for. Okay, so I'm seeing some Y's. Yes, I mean letter Y for yes, 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 good, good. Okay, moving on to category #2, how we sabotage our performance with the body. And by the way, these 3 categories are, I'm only artificially separating them. Really, you cannot separate the mind, body, soul, spirit. It's you, okay, it's me. I, as a whole, have a tendency to sabotage my perfect performance, let's say, ideal performance, which is not really achievable, but I have sabotaged and don't reach my fullest potential because of things that I do with my mind-body self. Okay, so these are artificial separations, but they're useful and practical. So #2, how we sabotage with the body. #1, we forget about our bodies. We don't take care of them. We don't pay attention to the things that we do to our bodies on a daily basis leading up to a performance. We don't pay attention to how we're eating. We don't sleep enough. We push ourselves. We allow ourselves to overdo. We don't listen to soreness and pain in the body, which are signs that we need to pause and approach what we're doing a little differently and in a more healthy way. We don't respect the body. We do things that really are not healthy, and we don't exercise. We sit all day. You know, there's so many ways we don't pay attention to basic self-care, and those things may seem unrelated to performance, but they are totally related. I mean, if you take it to an extreme, it's obvious. If you're an alcoholic and you're drinking all day long, you know, your performance is going to be impaired. That's obvious, right? It's not so obvious when you think about how much sugar you're ingesting on a daily basis, for instance. You may be completely oblivious to how that is impacting the use of yourself. And it may be kind of very, very subtle, but it still is related. So basic self-care and ignoring that is a huge way we sabotage our performance. A couple other things I wanted to mention regarding the body. We try to control the body, okay? We ignore the body on the one hand, but on the other hand, we pay too much attention to the body and we judge what our body is doing. That sort of goes back into the mind again. Let's say your arm hurts, okay? Or you've got back pain or your neck is sore. Usually we tend to judge the body part like, oh, I have a bad knee, or I have a bad back, or I have an arm problem. We judge it as something that's bad or wrong when honestly, the body is 100% innocent. I'm going to say that again. The body is 100% innocent. It's just doing its job. It's telling you when something that you're doing is not helpful, and it's giving you a signal with discomfort or pain. Your body is simply reflecting what's going on in your mind, and it is completely in obedience to what the brain is telling it to do. Give me is this a new idea for you? Yes or no? Just go ahead and tell me if this is new or if it sounds familiar. This simple idea, the body is innocent. Okay, you've got to get out of this idea that you need to blame your body for things. It's not your body's fault. It's something that we're doing with our thinking that causes the body to move in ways that are not helpful. It's not the body's fault. It's how we're thinking about our movements and how we're thinking about life and about music and about performance. So Of course, there can be injuries. If there's a tear in a muscle, there's a tear in the muscle, all right? It's an objective physical reality. And yet, how did that tear in the muscle happen? It could have happened from overuse. It could have happened from misuse. It could have happened unconsciously because you're not aware of how you're putting wear and tear on that muscle. That's another huge topic for another day. But here's one more thing I want to say about the body, is that we sabotage our performance by having too much tension in the body. And most of that tension is actually unconscious. You may not even be aware of it, right? And this is really important. So you've got to have some way to learn how to be so, aware of what's going on in your body that you're aware of when you're increasing the tension in your overall body and how that responds in parts of your body, like if you're a violinist, common areas for pain, here, arm pain, elbow pain, tendonitis, carpal tunnel, those types of things don't start in those places. They start up here, usually long before the symptoms start to manifest. So we sabotage our performance by ignoring the body, trying to control it, and by having too much tension, unnecessary tension. Tension itself is not bad, but I'm talking about unnecessary tension, okay? So, makes sense? Give me some emojis if that makes sense. And if you have any, here's a comment here. Nanette says, I'm aware that all my fear is only in my head, but it can really make me feel insecure and keep me from giving it my all. Yeah, absolutely. Fear actually isn't only in your head. I know what you mean, though. It starts up here. However, very often it's unconscious and it's old, and what I mean is that it's not just in your head because there's a physical manifestation to fear, and I know you know that. Just wanted to make it clear that performance anxiety is a whole person issue that needs to be addressed from a whole person standpoint. So yes, and that fear does make you feel insecure, and it does make it hard to give it your all when you're performing because you're holding back. Okay, it's scary to make yourself vulnerable as an artist, but that's what makes the best music, is to just put it out there and feel the fear and do it anyway, but also feel the fear and get curious about how you're contributing to it and how you can stop feeding it. Okay? So again, another topic for another day. Performance anxiety is a huge thing but it's also very simple to deal with. Okay? Last and absolutely not least, we sabotage our performance with not really being connected to our purpose. All right. Before I go on, if you're somewhere where you can type easily from a phone or from a computer, whatever is easiest for you, can you give me one word? If a word, just whatever word comes to you first. Don't second guess it or anything. Just throw out one word as an answer to this question. Why are you a musician? Just one word. Throw it out there. And then I'm going to read them after several of them come up here. Okay, so getting in touch with your deepest purpose. In fact, your big life purpose first. And then also smaller purposes, like why do you want to give that recital? Why do you want to play for your teacher? Why do you want to play with your family on Saturday night? Why are you a musician? Why do you go into the practice room every day? Why do you go through something that is this requires so much of you? Why do you do this? Okay, it's very important to have your big purpose uppermost in your mind, because if you don't, your priorities are going to get skewed. Right? You're going to go into a habitual mode of paying too much attention to things that really aren't that important. For instance, getting that C sharp in tune is really not that important when you look at the big picture. Why do you want that C sharp to be in tune? Well, maybe you want that C sharp to be in tune because then there's more balance and harmony in the phrase and it doesn't stick out and disturb your experience. Maybe you want that phrase to be in tune because it gives you and your listener a sense of balance and beauty and appreciation, and it helps you to connect with what you love. Okay, that's a deeper purpose. If you can remember that and put the C sharp into that bigger context, then when you screw up that C sharp, you're not going to care so much because you're still giving from your heart and connecting with your audience in a big picture level. And your audience, I promise, is going to get that. If that's what you care about most, you're going to transmit that. You're going to transmit that it's not so important that you screw up that C sharp or if you get it right. That is a very, very minor consideration. I'm not saying don't try to play in tune. Playing in tune is a worthy goal, but it's so small in comparison to the big picture. Okay, so don't forget your purpose. And if you have forgotten your purpose, then ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if the answer doesn't come right away, ask again tomorrow and the next day. And I promise if you have patience and faith, both of those are very important. Patience and faith, the answers will come to you, I promise. So skewed priorities, paying attention to the wrong things, not staying present, not being connected to your own heart and your own feelings, cutting yourself off from your emotions. That's a major saboteur of your performance. Trying to control your emotions is not going to work either, ultimately. And yeah, there's so many ways that we interfere with our performance on a spirit, soul, emotional level. Okay. And by the way, I don't think of spirit as the same as emotions. I'm just kind of putting those into the same category. All right. So I also said in the title, beyond the 3 ways that we sabotage our performance, I wanted to tell you how to stop. I could say the number 4 way that we sabotage performance is by making things too complicated. So I've thrown out a lot of information in this video, like lots of ideas and food for thought, and it may actually be a little overwhelming if you think about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to pay attention to this and that and this. No, that's just your habit talking about again, and that's another negative thought, like, oh, this is too hard. That's just more negative thinking. This is actually extremely easy to take care of. You've got to make things simple. All right, and it is absolutely possible. I can't teach you that in this video right now, but it is extremely simple to, I will teach you. Here's what you got to do. You got to stop, do constructive thinking, and then act. I call it stop, think, play. All right, that's the art of freedom, the Alexander technique, the way I teach it in a nutshell. But you have to know how to do those things. So if you want to learn more about stop, think, play, and how to simplify all of this into one thing, and I promise it's so easy once you realize it, once you've learned and you've been taught, and I can teach it to you very easily and simply and quickly. You can learn this so fast. Alexander said, you can change the habits of a lifetime if you use your brain. Okay? We just don't have that knowledge and we don't do the work. So if you want to learn more and you're not a member of my Mind Body Practice Tribe, please join. We'd love to have you. It's free. Facebook group. Look for it. It's the Musicians Mind Body Practice Tribe. There's a link at the top of this post. And if you want to learn more, because of course in the tribe it's very, we don't go deep into any of this, but if you want to really learn more, just private message me. Ask me what I can do for you, okay? I'd like to help you. So if you're stuck with anything music related, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, frustration, or a lack of being able to express yourself deeply, these are all things that I can help you with and I want to help you with. So just private message me, ask me whatever you want to ask me, and I'll tell you about how I can help you, right? I have online courses, classes, and I do private lessons as well, all based on the Alexander technique, and it's all about how you approach life in this mind-body self, and it's all about how to make it easier and more fun. Okay? So thank you so much for being here. Let me just see if there are any questions that have come up. Hello, Eric. Welcome. Nanette says, I started as a soprano and I can feel my throat is hurting because of tension. I'm sorry to hear that, Nanette. She also says, and when I relax, I sing much louder and nicer. Yes. So it's very obvious to me that I sabotage my joy of singing. Yes, that's exactly the kind of thing that you want to become aware of. You're not allowing yourself to enjoy yourself, literally. And singers have an advantage over many instrumentalists because when you sing, you know, but beyond a doubt, that you are your instrument. It's the same for instrumentalists. You are your primary instrument, and your violin or piano or cello, that's just secondary. You got to learn how to be in tune with this one first, and then whatever you do with your musical instrument is going to be so much easier. So yes, Nanette, it's all about finding how to undo that unnecessary tension and find true relaxation in your mind, body, soul, spirit. And it sounds like you're finding ways to do that. So congratulations. That's really great. Okay, any other questions coming up here or comments? And Nanette says, love of music, that's why you do it. Yes, I love that answer. Hello, Mia. Thank you for coming today. I'm glad you could make it live. That's great. Okay, wonderful. So thank you for being with me live and for watching the replay if you couldn't make it live. And I would really love it if you found this interesting or useful. Please share it. Share it to the groups that you're in with other musicians, if that's something that's allowed in that group. And please just tag your friends, colleagues, other musicians that may benefit from this. Okay? And I'll see you over in the practice tribe. Thank you so much for being here. Happy practicing. And lots of love. Bye-bye.